Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another live lesson with me, Matt Stead. This afternoon, we're going to have a look at an absolute classic piece of songwriting by the Beatles and specifically Paul McCartney. We're going to have a look at Penny Lane. It has the most gorgeous but simple to play chord progressions and some really fascinating things that I can tell you about there. Some chords that you wouldn't expect to come up. Really beautiful ones that can be quite tricky to play, but I can show you ways to make it easier. It's really gorgeous. A very unusual song, this one. I'm also going to show you some up the fretboard chords where we're going to go really high up the fretboard to kind of get a feel of that solo section where we would normally have the lovely piccolo trumpet being played, which is really gorgeous. So loads of interesting stuff, hopefully, for you all to learn here. Hi Tim, 4:30 a.m. Oh my goodness, Tim's got up early for this one. That's amazing. I hope it's worth it, Tim. I hope we can make it worth it. I'm sure we will. Fantastic. So Penny Lane, as you probably all know, was released in 1967. It was the double A side with Strawberry Fields. Not too common a thing to happen back then, to have two A sides rather than an A side and a B side. And it's kind of interesting. A lot of people say that Strawberry Fields and Penny Lane were kind of Lennon and McCartney at their peak in terms of songwriting. So Lennon with Strawberry Fields and then Penny Lane with Paul McCartney. And they were originally meant to be recorded to be as part of Abbey Road. Abbey Road? What am I talking about? Sergeant Pepper. They're originally recorded to be part of Sergeant Pepper album, and apparently they're recorded in a same session as When I'm 64. For whatever reason, they were left off the album, and Sergeant Pepper is obviously an absolute classic album, arguably one of the best of all time, but I'm kind of sad they never made it onto there, because I think it would have been even stronger with both Strawberry Fields and Penny Lane on it. But hi Shah, you're up early as well. I love it. Well done, everyone. Well done. So some really kind of interesting things there. The original has some really kind of beautiful, unusual stuff going on. There's lots of sound effects. We've got things like car horns and bells. There's a double bass part that's meant to sound like the banker sitting down in the barber shop. All sorts of funny stuff. If you're interested in this stuff, I'll obviously go into the theory of the chords and everything in a minute. This is a fantastic book. Some of you might have read this already, Ian MacDonald's Revolution in the Head. It goes through literally every song that the Beatles ever recorded right from the start, and it tells you all that kind of really kind of sophisticated information, lots of details. So here it talks about the piano part. So it's kind of interesting. It's not just one piano part, Paul McCartney's piano, and we'll try and replicate it on the ukulele. He recorded it 3 times to get all sorts of overtones. So piano played to a click track with piano chords, then a second piano with reverb played through a Vox amp, a third recorded at half speed, thereby altering the instrument's overtones. It's mad, isn't it? All this stuff that we take for granted, it sounds like such a sunny pop song, and there's all this stuff which is going on. Oh, thanks, Kevin. It's my annual. I used to have a biannual haircut, but I've got a bit lazy and it's gone to annual. So yeah, it was well overdue. I'm a bit nervous about getting my hair cut because every time I go in now, I've reached a certain age where I have the same barber, and every time I go in, she says, "Oh, it's a little bit less hair here." So it's like, oh man, yeah, but it's all good. It's all good. So let's have a look at what's going on with Penny Lane. Oh, just before we do, just let me tell you about the next live lesson that we've got coming up. Because we've got another one in 2 weeks' time, and we're going to do something very different. We're going to go back to looking at a chord melody in this one. Beautiful Fijian piece of ukulele called Isolé. It was actually one of the first ukulele pieces that I really got into in terms of chord melody. I learned a lovely, beautiful rendition by Mark Kailana Nelson, but I've written my own, and I'm going to talk about how you can use 2-part harmony to take an already beautiful chord melody and make it even prettier, we're gonna really look at these gorgeous 2-part harmony chords that we can do. And they're often referred to as double stops in Hawaiian music, and I'm going to show you how to do them, and I'll show you how you can add them into your own arrangements to make it sound really beautiful. So that's going to be in 2 weeks' time, fortnight today at 3:30, so do join me for this. I'm also going to come back to some more of these classic songs as well. Penny Lane just segues on perfectly, in my opinion, from God Only Knows, because they're both influential on each other, Paul McCartney and Brian Wilson, and I've loved looking into these pieces, so hopefully you'll enjoy them too. And I think we might do a few more of these classic songs because it's really good fun. Let's have a look at the basic song analysis as we go. If you've got any questions at any point, I love it when people ask questions. Sometimes people are nervous, but it actually really helps me because sometimes I forget to tell you something, and it sparks kind of little segues and little tangential things, which I think can be really fun in the lesson. So any questions for any of this, just give me a shout. So the basic structure is very, very classic. We've got this A, B format. That just means 2 verses and then a chorus. And then we have the same thing again. A, B, only the second time the second verse is the piccolo trumpet solo, which is really beautiful, and I'm going to show you a neat way of doing that later on. And then we've got a final A, B, just means verse, verse, chorus, only this time the final chorus goes up a half step. Really common thing to do in music, really kind of lifts the ending of the song, makes everything that little bit brighter. It's almost like the sunshine comes out, and everything's really pop-tastic and lovely. So that's what we've got going on there. Now we've got 2 different main key centres. No worries, Karen. Oh, thank you. Karen's so helpful with the Facebook business. Thank you. Thanks. You'll notice I did the judging of the monthly challenge today. So congratulations to Lisa and Nicola and Karen herself this week, who had a beautiful, beautiful entry. So yeah, check that out on the Facebook group. So these sections are in different keys, and this is where things start to get a little bit interesting. So all of the verses are in the key of A major, and they're really classic A major chords with some changes, which I'll show you in a minute. Then the choruses are in the key of G major. Now already that's a really interesting and unusual thing to do, because generally when we go to a chorus, we go to the relative minor, which in this case would be F sharp in the key of A major. We were playing F sharp minor. That would be the most common chord to go to in key centre in a chorus. Or we would start it with, say, the 4 chord, which in the key of A major would be a D. But by going to a new key centre, it's already quite unusual. And then, oh, hi, Johnny. No worries, I'll speak quietly. I think Johnny's watching us at work. But to go to a new key centre that is a whole step below is really unusual. Normally we lift things in the chorus and we go into a higher key centre. So really, really unusual stuff here. Just notice I've put down here that we're playing everything a whole step lower than the original, okay? So you can't play along to the YouTube record unless you change the key centre of this. The reason being the chords are really, really difficult in the original keys, which is kind of interesting in itself. It shows how sometimes we need to transpose songs to make them more achievable, or use a capo, I guess. So the original was in B major and A major. We're playing it in A major and G major. Let's have a look. Oh, I should probably just play through it actually, shouldn't I, first, just to give you a rough idea. I'll just do a really very rough playthrough so you can kind of hear how it works. Don't feel you've got to play along at this point. Just have a listen and a watch. And yeah, I'll give you an idea of how it's going to sound when we piece it together. Okay, just a rough go. In Penny Lane there is a barber showing photographs, and I'm going to start again, sorry. I'll try not to mess it up. In Penny Lane there is a barber showing photographs of every head he's had the pleasure to know, and all the people that come and go stop and say hello. On the corner is a banker with his motor car. The little children laugh at him behind his back. And the banker never wears a mac. In the pouring rain, very strange, Penny Lane is in my ears and in my eyes. There, beneath the blue suburban skies, I sit and meanwhile back in Penny Lane there is a fireman with an hourglass, and in his pocket is a portrait of the Queen. He likes to keep his fire engine clean. It's a clean machine. Penny Lane is in my ears and in my eyes. For a fish and finger pies in summer. Meanwhile, back behind the shelter in the middle of the roundabout, a pretty nurse is selling poppies from a tray. And though she feels as if she's in a play, she is anyway. In Penny Lane, the barber shaves another customer. We see the banker sitting waiting for a trim, and then the fireman rushes in from the pouring rain. Very strange, Penny Lane is in my ears and in my eyes. There, beneath the blue suburban skies, I sit and meanwhile back Penny Lane in my ears and in my eyes. Beneath the blue suburban skies, I sit and meanwhile back Penny Lane. Now, the observant of you can see if you can spot this is a competition. I'd like you to see if you can tell me where I made my deliberate mistakes. I'm so sorry, there's quite a lot going on there and I might have hit a few wrong chords there, but hopefully it gives you enough of an idea of how to play it and how it's going to sound. So we're going to look at ways of kind of making that almost like piano, and then kind of differentiating it from those lovely lush sounding chords. So we're going to look at that in detail. But let's have a look at what is physically going on with this. And this is where I think it gets really interesting, the chord analysis of the song. So similar to what we did in God Only Knows, I've written this out with different... Thanks, Fran. You're very kind. I did make a couple of mistakes, but... Phew. Oh, cool, Sonny. Nice. Cool. What I've done is I've written this out with different colours to show you the different keys. Now, the start of the song is really straightforward, and it's this 1, 6, 2, 5. See our pink chords at the top there. I've also tried to use colours for these sheets that will print out a bit better than the ones that I did for God Only Knows. So if you do print this out in black and white, hopefully they'll show up a little bit better. So we start with this classic 1, 6, 2, 5. Now that's one of the most common chord progressions in all of music. It goes back to George Gershwin's I Got Rhythm. I got rhythm, I got music. So really kind of classic chords. Oh, thanks, Tim. Thank you. You guys are so kind. You say nice things even when I mess up. I love you. So the really common chords. It's also the chords to Heart and Soul. Heart and soul, the very part of me. Da, 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 ba-da, ba-da, ba-da. So really kind of common chords that you would expect. And I imagine that Paul McCartney sat down and started writing this. I know he wrote this on his upright piano, the one that he painted all cool psychedelic colours. And he would have sat down, and I think he probably started this song by just bashing out that classic chord progression 1, 6, 2, 5. The 1 is the kind of home chord in the key of A, sets you off on your journey. 6 adds just a touch of melancholy, and it's voice led out of the A. That just means the 2 chords smoothly fit together with lots of notes that are the same. In fact, from that A major look, the only difference to the F sharp minor is 1 note. We're hitting this F sharp down here. Then we go to the 2 chord, which introduces, again, another bit of melancholy, but also the 2 chord likes to lead into the 5 chord, which is E7. And the 5 chord is that tension that makes you want to go back to the start. So 1, 6, 2, 5, okay? If you want to play that, just a normal A chord, 3rd finger coming down here for the F sharp minor, bar the whole of the 2nd fret for that B minor 7. Tough sounding chord, but actually not too bad to do. And then just your bog standard E7 back here. 2 beats each, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Now, because we want to kind of emulate those lovely, bright kind of piano chords that Paul McCartney spent a lot of time getting on this track, we want to make this part of the song kind of upbeat and gentle and kind of happy sounding. So what we're going to do when we strum down those chords is we're going to pulse them slightly. We're not going to do any kind of really tough muting with this hand where we have to do all sorts of fancy methods. It's really simple. When you strum this A chord, strum down twice. And after you finish strumming, just let the tension go out of these 2 fingers that are on the strings. So instead of sounding like this, they'll sound like this. See how? It mutes them straight away. These 2 strings will still ring out, but that's fine. So it's like a squeeze, squeeze. In fact, you can see my fingers squeezing. Squeeze, squeeze, and we release in between. When we do it on the F sharp minor, you hear even more of a squeeze and release because we're covering 3 strings. Hear that? So rather than, we're going to do. And then B minor 7, you hear it even more effectively because we're covering 4 strings. And then E7, same thing, squeeze, squeeze. Now, a lot of people would think, oh, I've got to kind of do some kind of mute after that A, but it's enough just to suggest that lovely kind of upbeat, strong down strums on the beats, which is what we want. That's what we've got. That's what's key here. So that's the introduction. Just take a quick swig of my coffee before it goes too cold. This was my Father's Day present, so it's very well used, isn't it? I did wash it up, I promise. Okay. Then we go to the next section, which is kind of interesting. We start with another A to F sharp, which is what you'd expect. That's another 1, 6 in the key of A. But then Paul McCartney does something really unusual here. You would expect another A major chord, or you would expect the completion of that 1, 6, 2, 5 with another B minor 7, E7. But we get this lush A minor 7 chord. It still works because we're still in the key of A. It's just the first chord, the 1 chord, instead of now being an A major, it's an A minor, so it has a real melancholic feel. So it suddenly shifts the mood, even though we've only played 3 bars. This is really clever, Paul McCartney. Now, why has he done that? What's interesting about that? Well, he's heading towards the key of G, which he's going to do the next section, the chorus in, and that will come eventually on the next page. I'll show you. It'll look like this. So the chorus is in the key of G. So he's kind of like, it's making you think he's going to go to the chorus in a very clever way, but still unexpected. Because the A minor 7 and F sharp minor 7 flat 5. Now there's a mouthful, right? F sharp minor 7 flat 5. A minor 7 flat 5 is just a fancy way of saying a half diminished chord. If you're into your theory, don't worry if you're not, just don't sweat this bit if you're not into your theory at all. But if you are into your theory, a half diminished is a first, a third, a first, a flatted third, a flatted fifth, and a flatted 7. So all of the notes apart from the first note in the chord are flatted. Whereas a fully diminished chord is a first, flatted third, flatted fifth, and a double flatted 7. So the basic thing, the only thing that you really need to know is that half diminished chords tend to be used as the 5 chord in a 2-5-1 progression. So if we put A, F sharp, half diminished together, it makes you think that you're going to go to a G chord. I'll show you what I mean. If I end it with a G chord, A minor 7, F sharp half diminished, and then if I end it with a G major 7, it feels finished, right? It's that autumn leaves. Those autumn leaves drift by my window. It's that kind of classic 2-5-1 in the key of G. And that's what Paul McCartney is doing. So this bit that I've done in blue, you can think about as almost like it's being in the key of G. Now, that creates a slight problem now for Paul McCartney, because we're not going to the chorus yet, because there's 2 verses. So he has to stay in the key of A for now, because he's not going to the chorus yet. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. And what we tend to do at the end of a verse, if we go into another verse, is we end with the 5 chord. Now, all this fancy pants stuff, you can just count it on your hands. Let's not make it too difficult. So in the key of A, B, C sharp, D, E is the 5 chord, okay? E is the 5 chord. And that creates tension, just like it does in that opening phrase, where it makes you want to go back to another A. So he's tricking us by making us think that we're going to a chorus, we're going to that 2-5-1, and we're going to a key change. But actually, he brings it back to the E chord at the end. And this is where sometimes, like, you just have to say hats off. Like, I never would have thought of doing this in a song, which is why I'm not a genius songwriter like Paul McCartney. He does that in a really clever way. He uses chromaticism. That just means he works his way down to an E chord from an F sharp chord. So if we have a look on our uke, let's have a look on our open E string. An F sharp note, rather than a chord, just the note, an F sharp note is here, 2nd fret of the E string, right? And he's basically working his way back to an E, which would be that string open. So the obvious thing to do then is to go to an F, right? And then we go to an E. And that's what he's doing here. We go from a type of F sharp chord to a type of F chord and then to a type of E chord, which is really a beautiful, clever thing to do. And that E chord makes you want to go back to a 1 chord at the start. So a really clever and beautiful descending chromatic run there. And I've put that chromatic run, you'll see I've put a little note there. So even after today, you've got all these little notes on your chord sheet. So you can, if you are interested in this stuff, you can look it up later. Now he does that, and even within that, he's like, oh my gosh, he's so clever. He does that in a clever way, because notice rather than just going from a normal F chord to a normal E chord, he goes from F major 7 to an E sus4. The reason he does that is that E sus4 is the same, it's just 2 notes that have moved chromatically lower, basically. They've got a step lower, and then he takes it to the E. So it's these smooth chord voices, which is really beautiful. And I kind of thought quite a lot on how best to do this on the ukulele to keep that smoothness. And this is what I've come up with. So let me show you from that A minor 7. A minor 7, easy peasy lemon squeezy, just no things at all. And we do that for 4. Then when we go to the F sharp half diminished, or F sharp minor 7 flat 5, what it is, you just bar the 2nd fret like this, And then on the bottom 3 strings physically, it's what looks like an F chord. You know, like how an F would normally look up there. It's like that shape on the bottom too, like that. So from nose to toes, we've got 2, 4, 2, 3. Okay, like that. A beautiful sounding chord. Have a little practice of that. That's quite a hard one to get sounding clean. You might need to experiment with moving that finger up and down so that those strings don't fall into the creases of your fingers. Then we've got an F major 7, and I'm going to do a nice easy version of that. We're just going to play the top 2 strings at the 5th fret. That's literally my favourite chord on the uke. I just think it's gorgeous, an F major 7 played up there, because you get this lovely almost unresolved quality to it, which is really, really, really beautiful. Now, I haven't done that just because it's easy. A normal, if you like, F major 7 looks like this, which is horrific. It's kind of like, ah. But this, it's interesting for me fingering it like this, because you can see that it's only 1 note different from the F sharp half diminished. That's what I mean by voice leading. Chords that have only got a slight change. The only difference is the F sharp note has gone down to an F. But the reason I'm doing it up here isn't because it's easier, it's because this chord segues gorgeously into an E sus4, which we do by just taking those 2 fingers back. How beautiful is that chord? 4th fret, just top 2 strings. And then when it goes to the E chord, you've got a couple of options. You could go traditionally to an E, like using your 3rd finger across the top 3 strings and down here. I find that one really awkward. Or if you've got these middle 2 fingers down, you can add your little finger here and then just put your 1st finger down here. Okay, like so. So we've got E sus. That one comes down and that one to an E major. Now, again, if you struggle with that, I actually think it sounds quite nice by leaving this open A ringing out. So I actually quite often, rather than, I don't put a finger down there, I just play that last chord like that, and you can strum all 4. Now, at this point, what I want to do is change the feel. We've got that lovely bounciness, right, of those kind of I got rhythm chords. Yay! Thanks, Karen. That's what I want. Yeah, that's it. It's those little things. Just like with God Only Knows. Remember we had like that D minor 6, which was really kind of simple to do, but really beautiful. And that A6. I love these sophisticated sounding chords that actually aren't that difficult to finger. The only exception to that is that F sharp diminished. I think that is a tricky one. I'm gonna admit that is quite a tricky one. Now, because we want a change in the feel here, when that unexpected A minor 7 comes in, what I do at this point is I just start strumming either up and down, or with like just a standard calypso strum. That's just down, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, like that. Just as kind of standard strum, because it changes the feel. Have a listen if I do that first bit. Bouncy, right? And then see how by strumming normally it kind of lightens things up and it gives it a different flavour there, which is really, really, really lovely. Should we have a go? Let's do that in real slow motion, like super slow, just so you can get used to it. Let's go really slow. 1, 2, 3, 4. A, F sharp minor, B minor 7, E7, A, F sharp minor, fingers off, A minor 7, then that diminished chord, half diminished I should say, F major 7, just pull those fingers back and add your pinky and your 1st finger down if you want to. Okay, let me do that with close cam so you can see it up close. So do that again. 2, 3, 4. A, F sharp minor, B minor 7, E7, A, F sharp minor, A minor 7, F sharp half diminished, F major 7, and drag it back. And then if you can, little finger down and your first finger. And with one more last time with the word so you can see how it works. 1, 2, 3. In Penny Lane there is a barber showing photographs of every head he's had the pleasure to know, and all the people that come and go stop and say hello. And then the next verse we start exactly the same. On the corner is a banker with a motor car. The little children laugh at him behind his back, and the banker never wears a mac. Now here's where the changes happen. At the end of this line, we've got a new chord, a D chord. And also notice the E sus4 and those E chords, they've been squeezed together into one measure. Again, I harp on too much about this stuff sometimes, I think. I sometimes, what was it, hyperbole? I used to call that hyperbole until someone told me that I should stop reading books and listening to how people say things. Because I always read it as I was a massive reader when I was a kid, and I was a proper nerd. I got obsessed with reading books, especially like modernist like literature, and I'd read all these words and I think I was so clever, like hyperbole, but I'd never heard anyone speak the words, so I used to just say them. And I don't know why I'm telling you this, sorry, major digression. But I used to say hyperbole for years and years and years, but it's hyperbole, isn't it? So anyway, or is it the other way around? Anyway, I do think Paul McCartney was a genius, and it's these little clever little tricks which I think is really special. So we've had that 2-5-1 trick. Now, if you look at the chords that are just in blue here, they're the ones that are kind of in the key of D, right? They're in the key of G. Now, you know how up here we had this E major chord? Yeah. Oh dear, I always get these things wrong. Honestly, I was a booky person, not a talky person. You can tell I was a librarian, right? That's why I know all this nerdy stuff, because I read too many things like this. Anyway, so, oh yeah, Lisa, by the way, you're one of the winners from this month's competition. So well done. Okay, anyway. So you know how up here we had that E major chord, because it's the 5 chord in the key of A, and the 5 chord in any key makes you want to go back to the 1 chord. Well, let's have a think what is 5 below a D. The easiest thing isn't to count backwards, it's to count upwards. So I'm going to tell you that the D chord is 5 above a G, and we can count up from G, G, A, B, C, D. So the reason that 5 chord exists is that it makes you want to go to a G chord. Now, what have we got at the start of the chorus? What key is it in, and what chord have we got? It's in the key of G, and we have that G. So if we didn't have that D, it would sound really, really weird going to the chorus. Oh, yeah, well done, Lisa. I loved it. It was absolutely fantastic. You got extra points for doing it sneakily at work as well. That's brilliant. Esther saying she used to pronounce Penelope as Penelope. Oh, I love it. I love things like that. Absolutely brilliant. It's the Irish ones that always get me. What was the one that I had an Irish friend at primary school and I could never say her name. It was quite unusual. Is it Roisin or something like that? And I just couldn't get my head around the spelling. Yeah, well done, everyone. Waco, Texas. I love it. You guys are great. So let's have a look. If I do this bottom line from the verse, have a listen to what happens when I go to the chorus if I don't put that D in. it will just sound kind of weird and wrong. Have a listen. Let me see what the words would be at that point. Banker never wears a Mac. And the banker never wears a Mac in the pouring rain. Penny Lane. Oh, I can't even sing it. It just like from that E to that G. Penny Lane is in my ears. It just doesn't work, right? It doesn't work. It needs a transition. So, touch of genius, Paul McCartney sneaks that little D in at the end, and that's like his link chord. Now, I want that to be a lesson. If you're ever writing a song, or if you're ever analysing a song like we are, and you want to know what chord is most likely to come up before the chorus, look for that 5 chord. That's what we've got going there. That D leads us into the chorus. Now, if I do exactly the same thing with that D chord in, it will sound really nice, hopefully. Let's have a listen. I'll have a go. And the banker never wears a Mac in the pouring rain. Very strange. Penny Lane. Aha! It works. So that's what Paul McCartney's doing there. The 5 chord takes us into the chorus, which is really clever and a really, really beautiful thing to do. Everyone calls pasta biscotti. Biscuit. Oh, yeah. I love it. When I was a kid, my parents used to laugh because, or it might be my school teacher, whenever I used to sing, you know that song, Christmas Tree? I never used to be able to say Christmas. I'd say Bitmas, and my teacher used to tell me off. So in primary school, I used to sing, "Oh Bitmas tree, how wobbly are your bran chips?" I still remember. She was like, "What are bran chips?" It's like those things on a tree. Oh, branches. Right. Anyway, enough. Let's have a go at that second verse. We're going to do it super, super slowly, guys. Just like we did with the first verse. Let's go really slow. 1, 2, 3, 4. A. F sharp minor. B minor. E7. A. F sharp minor. A minor 7. F sharp diminished. Now this sign, F major 7. Only 2 of these E sus4. 1, 2, 1, 2, and then add D chords. Fantastic. Let's try putting those first two verses together really slowly. If you want to, you can obviously use this sheet once you're confident with the chords to put the lyrics in. But I'll keep it on this sheet because it helps for anyone following the tutorial. Let's have a go nice and slowly. Just the first 2 verses. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3. In Penny Lane there is a barber showing photographs of every head he's had the pleasure to know. And the people that come and go stop and say hello. And on the corner is a banker with a motor car. The little children laugh at him behind his back. And the banker never wears a Mac in the pouring rain. Very strange. And notice that sets us up perfectly for Penny Lane is in my ears, the chorus, which is really delightful. So there we go. That's the verses. That's where a lot of the kind of interesting chords are happening. The reason I'm really nerdy about this stuff, and I love showing you this stuff, is that quite often when you watch YouTube tutorials, whether they be ukulele or guitar, quite often things are simplified. And what happens is they lose the beauty of those voice-led chords, the ones that smoothly lead into each other. And I've seen this written out so many times where it goes A minor rather than A minor 7, F sharp rather than the diminished chord, which doesn't even really work. and then just a normal F chord and a normal E chord. So da 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 da, something like that. But it loses that lovely backwards movement, those subtle changes, which is what makes this really beautiful. So that's why I'm kind of passionate about these things. If you play those chords right, it just sounds gorgeous, and such a beautiful song. We want it to sound gorgeous, right? That's the idea. Now the chorus is relatively simple. We've got an upward movement through the diatonic chords. Now I say that and you think, oh my gosh, what is he on about, diatonic chords? Diatonic chords are just the chords that naturally come up in a key. And every key has a set of 7 chords. The first chord is major, second minor, third minor, fourth major, fifth major, sixth minor, and seventh, some form of diminished. In a key of G, that'd be G major, A minor, B minor, C major, D major, E minor, and then an F sharp half diminished. So those are the natural chords. They're kind of the ones that would just be built naturally as we play through that key. Sorry, I got really wonky glasses again. I think since I've had my haircut, I think they lowered my ears and my glasses aren't fitting properly. I'm really self-conscious. They keep going like this. Right. Anyway, so let's have a look. So we start with the 1 chords. That's just the natural 1 chord that you would expect to come out at the start of that any song that's in the key of G, and this is in the key of G, this chorus. Then it just goes up. We don't play the 2 chord, but we do play the 3 chord, which is a B minor. So we get that feel of kind of shifting upwards at this point, which is really lovely. So G, B minor, just bar the whole of that 2nd fret, and then use your ring finger on the 4th fret of the G string like so. Again, just experiment with moving that finger up and down to make sure those strings aren't falling into the crease, and try and get that finger as close to the metal fret as possible. If you have it back here, you're more likely to get kind of chuck noises. All right. And then we go to a C. Now, normally, Karen's just asking if she could play a B minor 7 instead. I think you probably could. Let me just try it. Penny Lane is in my ears and in my eyes. Yeah, it's not exactly what McCartney plays, but you can get away with that, Karen, if you want to play a B minor 7. B minor 7, you just leave that finger off there. So you get this da 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 da. And then the original Penny Lane is in my eyes and in my ears. Now we've got a C chord next, and what you could do is take that B minor chord up 1 fret and then drop this finger down for a C chord like this. So you get this da 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 da. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to this C. It's simple, it sounds good, and it allows us to do something that comes up next. Now this one, you can blame Tim for this. He's lurking there somewhere. Me and Tim were talking about Penny Lane in a lot of detail by emails, and really appreciated that, Tim. It's a really beautiful email. And Tim was saying, quite rightly, one of the most beautiful things in the song are those little kind of melodic movements that happen after the vocals are finished. So you notice in the original we have this Penny Lane is in my ears and in my eyes, and we have this kind of melody that happens, and that's kind of really important. Penny Lane is in my eyes and in my da 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 da, and it's really nice to suggest that melody within these chords. And what is happening is we're basically adding some sus notes to a C chord, and it works easiest played in open position. So when we do this C, we're going to strum it normal first. And then we're going to add this finger down here for a C sus4 in effect, just putting our first finger on the 1st fret of the E string. Now you can just strum this normal. I'm only strumming this with my thumb down to the 3rd string down, just so you really hear the notes coming out clearly. But that gives us a C sus4 because we take the third note in the key of C, C, D, E, this note here, and we turn it into an F. So that would be the third in the key of C, and we replace it with an F, hence why it's called a C sus4. So we just put our finger down like that. And then we take it away for a normal C, so we get this E melody note coming through. And then we add our finger down here. Technically this is a C add 9. We call it a 9 because we tend not to call things C add 2. We tend to kind of go above the chord. It all just comes back to jazz theory. Don't sweat why. But that's the fancy name for that is a C add 9. Now notice when I do that, we get this. Isn't that lovely? Da, 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 da. So we get that lovely kind of idea of this melody. Now, when you strum that, it sounds a little bit like trumpet part. I'll stay on close cam so you can hear it. It's quite subtle. Do you hear that? Now the timing is 2 of these C's, 1 of this C sus4, 1 open and down, 1, 2 and 3, 4 and like that. I'll do that in slow motion. Okay, try it with me. 2, 3, 4. And that just kind of copies that trumpet part. I think in the original that's played a whole octave higher, but it works brilliantly on our ukulele like this. So let's play that first line really slowly. Penny Lane is in my ears and in my eyes. Lovely. Then we go to the G chord again. There, beneath the blue suburban skies. Now, what do we know about the end of a section when we want to go to another key? We need the 5 chord of the key that we're going towards. So, whatever happens at the end of a chorus, it either goes to another verse, which is in the key of A, or it goes up a step for the final chorus where we get 2 choruses together. So basically, long story short, either way we need to go to a section that's in the key of A major. What chord is 5 above A? A, B, C sharp, D, E. It's an E chord. So the reason that E7 is there is to cleverly link back to another verse. Again, if I don't put that magic link in, it sounds weird. Let me do the end of the chorus so you can hear what I mean. There, beneath the blue suburban skies, I sit and meanwhile back Penny Lane. It's like, what? It actually hurts your ears, doesn't it? I'll do that again because that's really interesting. There, beneath the blue suburban skies, I sit. It's like, what? It's horrible. It doesn't sound great at all. Put that 5 chord in, the E7, and suddenly, like magic, it sounds great. There, beneath the blue suburban skies, I sit and meanwhile back in Penny Lane, there is a fireman with an hourglass. Isn't that magic? The power of that 5 chord. And that's how McCartney links these key changes up. When he goes to the key of G, he puts in a sneaky D chord. When he goes back to the key of A, he puts in a sneaky E chord. Isn't that cool? Works really, really beautifully. So at that point, we go back and we do another verse. Let's try doing a chorus really, really slowly, again, slow motion. You can play this faster when you're more confident later on. It's all about just learning it for today. I'll stay on close camera, get your G major ready, and let's go really slow. 1, 2, 3. Penny Lane is in my ears and in my eyes. There, beneath the blue suburban skies, I sit and meanwhile back. Notice at the end there, I like to just strum that E7 and hold it. It kind of creates a nice sense of drama, and it changes that rhythm up because we've been nice and strummy in this chorus. So when we go back to the verse, it sounds really different again. I'll show you what I mean. There, beneath the blue suburban skies, I sit and meanwhile back in Penny Lane there is a fireman with an hourglass. So when we go to the next verse, which we're going to, I want you to make it really choppy again. Bouncy, that's a better adjective, sort of bouncy. Or as I would have said as a kid, bouncy. No, just messing. So that's what happens. We go back and we do another verse. Why don't we do that? Let's do it. Let's do a chorus and then we'll go back and do the third verse. So chorus first, these chords here, and then I'll try and flip quickly back to here, and we'll do another verse. I'll try and get my mouse ready. Here we go. So chorus first. 1, 2, 3. Penny Lane is in my ears and in my eyes. There, beneath the blue suburban skies, I sit and meanwhile back. Sorry, I wasn't quick enough. In Penny Lane there is a fireman with an hourglass, and in his pocket is a portrait of the Queen. He likes to keep his fire engine clean. It's a clean machine. Okay, so we finish on an E at the end of that verse. Now what we have next is really interesting. At this point in the solo, there's this lovely really lovely trumpet solo. And it's a piccolo trumpet. So that's like a trumpet which is smaller and tuned in a higher pitch than a normal trumpet. So a piccolo instrument tends to be in a higher register than its normal cousin. And again, in Revolution in the Head, this is all explained. If you're interested, this is such a great book. It's really fantastic. And he talks about the fact that what Paul McCartney did is he wanted a kind of a feel of almost like the Brandenburg Concerto. So Paul McCartney had this little melody in his head, and George Martin transcribed it and wrote down the notes, and then Paul McCartney actually sang what he wanted the piccolo trumpet to play, and that's all that, and at the end, you know, that really, really tricky kind of phrase at the end, which is really cool. Now, I agonised over this, whether I should try and write out the piccolo trumpet part, but it's just so hard, not to transcribe, but to play. And I think when you do play it on the uke, it doesn't work anyway. There's too many notes, it sounds too complex, it breaks up the song, it ruins your flow, and it just doesn't work, basically. So I haven't gone down that route. But then I thought, well, what do we do then? Because as players, we don't want to just like ignore a whole section of a song. And that kind of that instrumental section in any song is often really important because it gives the listener something new to listen to. It creates a sense of drama. It just creates a sense of change, which is really, really important for when we go back to the next verse. So, cool. Charlene's got there you go. That's a Christmas gift sorted. Love it. Excellent. It's nothing better than books for Christmas, in my humble opinion. So I was thinking about what I could put in its place. So what I've done is I've use the same chords that we would have in the verse, which is what happens harmonically underneath that piccolo trumpet solo. But I've taken them in the same direction melodically as what the piccolo trumpet plays. So all of the notes that the trumpet plays are contained within these chords, only we're not going to pick them out individually. But it's kind of clever. It gives you a feel for that solo part, and it gives you a kind of a taster of it, if you like. It sounds great, and you can almost hear it as you play it. But it means that we haven't got like crazy, ridiculous, like virtuoso stuff over the top, which probably only a handful of players in the world would be able to play, not including myself. I would find it too difficult. So let's have a look. Now, this bit is tough, right? So if you absolutely struggle or you're a beginner, totally fine to just play the normal chords in this section. Okay, totally fine. But if you want the challenge and you want that lovely kind of essence of the piccolo solo and the essence of also those backing vocals, these are the chords that sound really nice. Let me show you them one at a time. So we're going to start with an F major chord, just as we did in the, an A major chord, sorry, just as we did in the verses. Really, really simple A major. Then instead of F major, F sharp minor here, we're going to play it here at the 2nd and 4th frets. It looks like kind of it's almost like what a diminished chord looks like that's been split apart. Now, if you prefer, you can bar the whole of the 2nd fret and use 2 fingers, either those 2 or these 2. That finger isn't doing anything. I'm just kind of trying to hold it out of the way so you can see. Oh, Karen, you might have been one of the few people. I decided to make this edition just a couple of days after I produced the original sheets. So you might have been one of the few people that doesn't have this solo section. Panic ye not, Karen. What I can do, just email me afterwards and I can forward it on the sheets. And this is the same for anyone else that is missing these ones. Or if you want to, you can just go back to the website if you're a member and log in, and you'll see the sheets have been replaced with these ones. So you only need, if you have already printed them out, you only need print out this one extra sheet in the back. The rest is all right. We've got oh no, isn't it a full of fish and finger pies? You have 4 in there, or is my Beatles song book wrong? I've seen it written both ways, Karen. The reason I'll tell you why I'm giggling in a minute. I've seen it written both ways, and it's kind of ambiguous. If you listen to McCartney, it's hard to kind of work out. I think it's 4. I think it is 4 of fish and finger pies, and the reason is too rude to explain. It's really gross. It's a slang term that Liverpudlian schoolboys would use for something sexual and really gross. That's all I'll say. You can probably fill in the rest. So I think a 4 of fish and finger pies, it refers to 4 fingers, I think. But I could have got that wrong. It's one of those ones that's like one of those misheard lyrics, isn't it? We'd have to go back to McCartney himself to find out. I've seen it written both ways, and I don't actually know for sure which is right. But I've gone for 4 fish finger pies. But yeah, don't look up the etymology of that if you're kind of a bit queasy. Oh, Kevin's gone for 4 fish and finger pie. That would make sense as well, wouldn't it? 4 fish and finger pie. Yeah. I think that makes most sense actually, Kevin. Yeah, cool. Well, sing it however you want. But yeah. And totally Joe and Karen. Ick. Yeah. It's kind of sweet in an icky way. He's kind of remembering this is really kind of Penny Lane was where he used to change his bus on his way to school. There was a little bus interchange at Penny Lane, and it's all these memories. And it's kind of interesting if you read about it. A lot of these things were genuinely there. So there was a barbershop, I think it's called Belotti's, that was there. So that was there. There was a bank on the corner. So that's the banker. All of these things are kind of real things that he remembered from his childhood. He did say... good. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, Kevin. He did say McCartney that the only poetic license was the fireman bit. There is a fire station about half a mile away, but it's not on Penny Lane, so it's kind of a bit of artistic license. But I think he would have passed it on his bus. So it's all that imagery. So think about what kids would have talked about and got up to on the back seat of a bus. There we go. That's all I'll order. That's all I'll say. That's all I'll say. Anyway, back to these chords. Sorry, guys. So we've got our A major here. Then we've got that F sharp minor. Now, it is important not to use this one if you are using these kind of solo chords, because I'm trying to get this nice C sharp note in, which leads you into the D note in the next chord. I'm basically leading a melody up the fretboard, which is really important. So A, F sharp minor, B minor 7, which looks like this. You're going to do second finger on the bottom two strings of the 5th fret, third finger up here, ring finger on the, what's that, 6th fret of the C string, and then this finger, it looks like it's barring the whole of the 4th fret, but it's only really touching this note up here, this B note on the G string. So don't feel you've got to really strangle that bar there. It's just touching that string up there. Now this one you can get away with just playing the bottom 3 strings and just doing this G minor 7 shape. Okay. So we've gone da 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 da. Notice that it's kind of roughly copying bits of the melody. We've got that raising, and then it goes up again to this E7, and that's how we get this melody note, the 7th fret of the A string. This is a tricky one. Bar the whole of the 7th fret, and then second finger up here on the 8th fret of the C string. It's like an A7 that's been moved up all the way. In fact, that's exactly what it is. Now, if you're playing 3 fingers because you found that B minor 7 difficult, you can just take that up too. It's another option. All of these chords, okay, you can just play the bottom 3 strings and ignore the note on the G string. It won't sound as full, but it does make it more achievable, and that's absolutely fine. So don't feel like you're cheating. That's absolutely fine if you want to on these. All right. And Kevin says, not personally, of course, the Liverpudlian schoolboy thing. yeah, I'll believe you, Kevin. Thousands wouldn't. Okay, so we have this A major, F sharp minor, B minor 7, and then E7 by playing that movable shape up there. Then we go way up now to the 9th fret, barring the whole of the 9th fret, way up here. And then your little finger or your 3rd finger, I like my little finger here, on the 12th fret. That's the highest note. We're getting into the piccolo trumpet register now. Now, we need to start bringing that back down. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to play an F sharp minor at the 9th fret, which just means leaving this finger where it is and this finger up here. Now, I find that really tricky on most ukes. On baritone, I can just about reach it, but it's quite tricky on tenor. I sometimes just play that, instead of playing it as an F sharp minor, play it as an F sharp minor 7 by just playing the 9th fret barred. It's absolutely fine. So here, and then just take the finger away. Okay. So notice we're getting that feel. Just really highlighting those melody notes. We've gone way up here. Then we're going to come back down to an A minor 7. And what we've got is a D minor 7. You might recognise this shape as a D minor 7. Take it up, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp. And then eventually if we go right up here into the gap, we've got a lovely A minor 7. So real squish this. Just think D minor shape on your gap see this gap between your two dots, D minor shape there, and then little finger comes down here on that E string at the 10th fret. You could just play it as a 3-part chord, ignore this finger, okay, but that's the full chord. Yeah, cool. We do that for a whole measure, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we come back to another version of that F sharp half diminished by barring the whole of the 5th fret, finger here on the 6th fret of the C string, and another one here. Now notice I'm getting a bit of a buzz there. I didn't hold that very carefully. Sometimes I'll play that as a 4-finger version like that, because I can do that cleaner and I don't get a buzz. The only thing is, this version is really nice because the next chord, we're just going to take away this finger for the F major 7. Okay. Quite a lot going on here. I recognise, guys, that this is really tricky stuff. This isn't the sort of thing some of you will be able to, because I know we have got a couple of very, very clever ukulele players in this group. But for most people, this is something you'd work on over a matter of days and weeks. So don't worry if you're looking at this thinking, oh my gosh. You can get this with practice and time and patience, but just see it as an interesting thing that you can play at the moment that you can work your way up to. All right, so that F sharp minor 7 flat 5, F sharp half diminished looks like this. And then we just take away this finger for the F major 7. And then we pull back, just as we did before, to our normal E sus4. Finger down here and here. And then just pull it back to a D chord, which takes you back into the chorus. Again, we're ending on that D chord because we're going to go to the chorus. Let me play through that one at a time, really super slow, so you can see how it kind of works. Da, 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 da. Up here. Ba, ba, da. And then we get to those lovely bits with the backing vocals. Ooh, ooh, da 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 da, da 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 da, and then that takes us back into our chorus. Now, not expecting anyone to be able to do it this fast yet. I've practiced this round loads of times, right? And even I might get it wrong, like I did in the playthrough at the start. But eventually, at tempo, it'll sound like this. Sorry, I did the wrong F sharp minor 7 flat 5. On that D, I like to be fancy and do a couple of triplets. Triple it down. I just think it sounds great. Triple it down. And then that takes us into another chorus. Penny Lane is in my ears and in my eyes. So really fun, really fun. Now, of course, yeah, absolutely. Now, of course, you can come back to this. You could leave it out. You could even create your own version. You could just do the bottom 3 strings. That would be absolutely fine. Let me show you that quickly. If you're just doing the bottom 3 strings, a lot of these chords become a lot simpler. So this one would be fine. You could do this for F sharp minor 7 flat 5. No, you couldn't there. B minor 7 this. E7 this. And then when we go up here for this chord, you could just play it like this. Take it away. For this one, you could just be on this bit. Okay. So see how I'm just worrying about the notes on the bottom few strings. For this one, what would it be? It'd be this. And then this bit, you could go back to normal. So have an experiment. You don't have to do exactly the chords that I've written, but once you get it, it creates a lovely, lovely solo and it replicates. You get a kind of feel for what's happening. Particularly, I love those chords up the fretboard where there's a beautiful backing vocal here, isn't it? Ooh, that bit. Penny Lane which is great. Fantastic. Yeah, the old mouth trumpet. Yeah, you could do Victoria Vox. She's a guest at our next retreat. If anyone's interested, we've still got a few tickets left for the winter retreat, and we've got Victoria Vox teaching there. She's going to be absolutely amazing. It's, I think, the second week of December here in the Royal Forest of Dean. So come along and take part in that if you can. The reason I mention that, Victoria Vox does a brilliant mouth trumpet. I can't do it, but she does it and it sounds great. So yeah, maybe we should get her doing mouth trumpet on this. That would sound really good, wouldn't it? Now basically we're virtually there. Okay, we're nearly done, guys, because after that we would go to another chorus, which is on this page. Penny Lane is in my ears and in my eyes. Lovely suspects for a vision, finger pies in summer. While back, we go back for another verse. Let's do it. Let's try playing a verse really slowly. I'll slow down tempo. 1, 2, 3. Behind the shelter in the middle of a roundabout, a pretty nurse is selling poppies from a tray. And though she feels as though she's in a play, she is anyway. And another one. In Penny Lane, the barber shaves another customer. We see the banker sitting waiting for a trim. And then a fireman rushes in from the pouring rain. Very strange. And then we have one more chorus. Let's do it. You don't have to play it straight away. Penny Lane is in my ears and in my eyes. Beneath the blue suburban skies, I sit and meanwhile back. Now, the choruses, notice, always end on the E7 because the next section, either another verse or another chorus, is going to start in A. And for the final verse, that's what McCartney does. Rather than going for the final chorus, rather than going for another verse, he adds another chorus. So exactly these chords we've just played, but a whole step up. That just means every note is a note higher. So what's one higher than a G? It's an A. What's one higher than a B? It's a C sharp, B, and then it would be C, C sharp, a whole step, 2 notes. One note in the scale, but 2 chromatic notes. All right, so we've got B to C sharp, C becomes D, and so on and so forth, right? So in the final chorus, we're doing exactly the same as the normal chorus, only everything's being moved up a whole step. So that means we've got to do a couple of bar chords. So let's have a look at it. I don't know why that just got smaller. I think I've still got the ghosts around from my Halloween special. There we go, that's better. So A would be the start of it now. Penny Lane, Penny Lane. Need to get a new key. Penny Lane. And then we're going to go to a C sharp minor. Think of that B minor chord, but 2 higher. So exactly the same shape, but instead of being at 2 and 4, we're at 4 and 6. It's in my ears. And then we've got a D. Now you could play a D here, but we're going to come back down to this D. And that's really important because if you want to add those little suspended notes in, we need to come back here and we're going to add a finger to the 3rd fret of the E string, take it away and lift off your finger. So you get this. Try and do it without a buzz like I'm getting. I'm not doing that very neatly. That's better. All right. And that's your little kind of trumpet part. Penny Lane is in my ears and in my eyes. See? Now it's quite difficult to hit that final note of that second time round. So second time round, I quite often leave off that final note. So I quite often do da 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 da. And then we go to the next one. And this is where I messed up annoyingly in the original playthrough because I got these chords wrong. But rightly, it will sound like this. Penny Lane is in my ears my eyes. There, beneath the blue suburban skies. Now this D, we just stay on it for a little bit. I sit and meanwhile back. And because we're in the key of A, we really need the one chord, the final chord in the key of A to finish off. And it's an A, right? Penny Lane. And as I've put down there, 1 equals resolution. It's like the cliffhanger being resolved. Let's have a go at that final chorus really, really slowly in slow motion. Let me come in on close camera. 1. I'm counting to 3, not because we're in 3/4, but just because there's a pickup measure here. The words penny come before the 1, if you see what I mean. So that's what I'm saying. 1, 2, 3, penny. Just in case you're wondering why I'm counting to 3 and not 4. 1, 2, 3. Penny Lane is in my ears and in my eyes. There, beneath the blue suburban skies, I sit and meanwhile back. Penny Lane. Yeah, fantastic. Fantastic. Absolutely brilliant. So what I'll do is I think I might play that through one last time. I'll do it at a slightly slower tempo than I did it the first time. And what I'll do is I'll have this page up. And this can just be as an example just to see how it all works. Now you've learned it, it'll be good to kind of see it all working. I'll come in on close camera as well so you can see my fingers. And then what I'll do is I'll stick around for another 10 minutes, quarter of an hour at the end. And any questions or anything, just let me know now whilst I'm having the playthrough. And then I can address them at the end. I'm just going to move little me over because I just realised he's blocking something. Okay, here we go. So, okay, slightly below tempo, I'll put the whole thing together. If you feel ready to play any of it, join in. If you feel ready just to do the verses and you want to leave out the trumpet part or whatever, absolutely fine. Or if you just want to listen for now to see how it all works, all cool. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Penny Lane. Oh, I need to get my key, sorry. 1, 2, 3. In Penny Lane there is a barber showing photographs of every head he's had the pleasure to know, and all the people that come and go stop and say hello. And on the corner is a banker with a motor car. The little children laugh at him behind his back. And the banker never wears a mac in the pouring rain. Very strange. Penny Lane is in my ears and in my eyes. There, beneath the blue suburban skies, I sit and meanwhile back. In Penny Lane there is a fireman with an hourglass, and in his pocket is a portrait of the Queen. He likes to keep his fire engine clean. It's a clean machine. Penny Lane is in my ears and in my eyes. For a fish and finger pies, I sit and meanwhile back behind a shelter in the middle of the roundabout. A pretty nurse is selling poppies from a tray, though she feels as if she's in a play. She is anyway. In Penny Lane the barber shaves another customer. We see the banker sitting waiting for a trim, and then the fireman rushes in from the pouring rain. Very strange. fantastic. Well, I hope you enjoyed that, guys. Lots to kind of take in. That middle section is really tough, even though I've kind of not done that piccolo trumpet. You might have noticed there's a couple of chords in there. I was like, flow by the seat of my pants. But let that be kind of a positive thing rather than a negative thing. If I'm finding it tough, they are difficult, right? And it will come with practice. I need to practice that round more, just as you guys do. So really take your time with that solo section. It's really, really tricky. Be really patient with yourself. You can always think about swapping them out with 3-note chords. Will be absolutely fine. But give it a go, because it does sound cool. And once you get it, just practice it slowly, little bit. Raise the tempo a little bit more each day. So that's a really important thing to do. You have probably heard me mention this in loads of my tutorials. It's really important to play through something slowly but in perfect timing, and then bring the tempo up, rather than trying to play something at the tempo and getting the timing wrong, because timing is more important than the tempo. So really work on that. Get the timing down first at slow tempo, and then gradually add it up each time. So yeah. A one sheet compilation, Sonny. Possibly. I'll see what I could do. Leave it with me. I'll see what I can do. It's Leslie, isn't it? I keep calling you Sonny, but I keep forgetting it's Leslie's thing. Yeah, I'll see if I can. Kind of like this one, do you mean? I might be able to. Let me see what I can do. But yeah, I'll try and do that with all the future ones, so you've got it in one page, because it is useful. I've started doing this for all my pieces. I'm working through all the old courses, so if anyone did my beginners course, originally I didn't have these sheets, but I think it's really helpful to have them. So I'm doing these for all of the lessons on my courses as well. So you'll see them appearing a couple at a time. It's taken a little while, but you'll get it. Right, let me get rid of that and see how you're doing. So. Oh, thanks, Hester. Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of these. Why has that gone really small? There we go. A lot of these songs, they sound simple. It's only when you really analyse them that you see the genius behind it. It's like God Only Knows. You could listen to God Only Knows and just think, oh, that's like a classic pop song. And then you look at the chords and it's like, whoa, they're using voicings that like other people weren't using. Taking stuff from jazz. It's really, really cool. And yeah, beautiful. I love the way that chorus goes down a whole step. That's really unusual and really cool. But again, I never really appreciated it. I always loved the song, but it's only when you really start digging into it that you start enjoying it. That's why I love stuff like this. Honestly, I should be on commission for this, shouldn't I? But I love. I'm a nerd, and I love reading up about all these songs. A lot of people say music theory is boring and it's not interesting, but I think when you get into the theory of music, and this doesn't go into a lot of theory, this is more about the recording and how they got the ideas and all that sort of stuff. But when you dig into that theory, you enjoy things on two levels. You enjoy them just like anyone else hearing the songs. But when you kind of understand what's going on, I think it makes it more fascinating. I absolutely love it. I think it's brilliant, and hopefully that's what you know. One of the things that maybe you can take away from these lessons for these classic songs we're doing is really get into some of that theory. Think about, why do those chords sound so great? How do those sections smoothly fit together? Those little fifth chords and things like that. It's really cool. So yeah, absolutely, Kevin. And it's kind of something I wasn't going to do originally, and I'm really glad I did. But yeah, it's well worth doing once you get it. It sounds lovely. So I'm just saying the riff seems to sound good with a down up down strum. Yeah, absolutely. You've got to make it yours. You've got to make it yours. No worries. Make it yours and see what you can do. And everyone needs to go at their own pace as well. I don't know why all these comments are going so tiny. Good, thank you. We're talking about this, except for the fish and finger thing. I know, right? It's like, just get it out of your head. It's what was I saying? Oh yeah. we're talking about this, I think, at last Canna and it's really good to just be pushed to that edge of your comfort zone. If you're totally out of your comfort zone and you think, I don't understand literally a word of this, obviously that's no good, and it's worth kind of stepping back a little bit and looking at something a bit more simple. But just being on the edge of your comfort zone, that's the best way to learn. And all my students, I'm not doing one-to-ones at the moment just because I've been so busy with a lot of things, a lot of boring personal stuff that I won't go into. But my one-to-one students, a few of them are here and they'll tell you, that's something that I really encourage. I push them. I don't like them to be comfortable. Just push them just to the edge of their comfort zone, and that's how you learn. You step up a bit. So it's really good to be challenged, absolutely. And you saw myself, it challenges me as well, right? So yeah. Oh, okay, Sonny. Leslie, sorry. I'll see what I can do. I'll see what I can do. Yeah, a lot of the sheets I see if you can. I know you might not have a colour printer, but I wonder if you could get them on your tablet. I try and design them in colour because it just makes it easier to see all the key changes and everything. No problem. Lots of homework. That's good. Thanks, Angela. That's good to go. Yeah, I always say every marathon starts with a first few steps. So yeah, there we go. I went to Penny Lane a few years ago, Kevin. I did a gig. I was really lucky. I got to play the Cavern Club. I've played there a few times, actually. I used to play in a garage band, playing kind of 60s garage music. And we played both stages. My old band, we were called the Mighty Stars back in the day. Then I got to play there again with Fine Day for Sailing, which was my indie pop band. But a few years ago, I got to do a ukulele performance there. And it was kind of it was George Harrison's, I think it was on George Harrison's birthday, and it was a ukulele festival at the Cavern Club, and I did a version of the Bob Dylan song that he did, If Not For You. And it was, and I did the Beatles tour. It's really fascinating. It's lovely to go and see Penny Lane and drive up and down it. And being on the kind of open top bus, you could really get a feel for it. It's like you can visualise the song. Obviously, a lot of the stuff's gone now, but it was good to do. The Beatles Museum is amazing. I don't think Sharon was very happy, my wife, because we needed to remortgage the house after I went to the souvenir shop because there was so many good. Thanks, guys. There was so many nice stuff in there, and I bought a T-shirt, and it doesn't fit me, unfortunately. But it's well worth. If you haven't been, the Beatles Museum is in the docks. It's well worth checking out. And of course, if you go down to the docks, there's also the Tate Modern there as well, which is well worth checking out. They've got some brilliant. If anyone's into it, they've got some brilliant Jackson Pollocks in there. The Tate Modern in Liverpool. We had a good curry there as well. There's a nice curry place on the docks. Is it the Albert Docks? I think it's the Albert Docks, isn't it? They call it. So yeah, well worth checking out. Fran, I think I lived my whole life on the edge of the comfort zone. Yeah, absolutely. It gets us by though, eh? It's all good. Well, I really hope. Thanks, Kevin. Yeah, we used to play everywhere back in the day. We weren't ever like big. My first band. We came close, but we never really made it big. We got to play in the City Music Conference a few times with a guy called Kim Fowley. He turned out not to be that great a guy because there's all sorts of rumours that came out after his death. But he was a bit of an impresario. I think he kind of launched Kiss and the Runaways, and he's really into the psychedelic scene. He brought the Beach Boys over in '66 actually, and did a lot of work with them. And he kind of managed us for a little while, and we did all these conferences and these big gigs and stuff. It was good fun. And the only sad thing is I got to perform in front of Seymour Stein, who's the head of EMI. He signed the Smiths and Madonna, but Seymour Stein invited me up to his hotel room, and Kim Fowley told me not to go because for various reasons, and I chickened out and I didn't go. And I always wonder, what if I'd have gone up to that hotel room? Would we have got a record deal? But long story short, we didn't. But we had lots of fun back in the day playing all these gigs. It was fantastic. So just a reminder, folks, if anyone's interested, we've got another live lesson in 2 weeks' time. We're going to have a look at a beautiful fingerstyle chord melody arrangement of E Soleil. It's a very simple beautiful Fijian tune. Which works gorgeously on the ukulele. So I'm going to teach you that beautiful tune, chord melody style, and then we're going to have a look at these double stops, these notes that are a sixth apart all over the ukulele fretboard, and we'll look at some thirds as well, and some lovely sixths spread apart like so. And they're a lovely way to get harmony into your uke playing. It's a beautiful thing to do. So we're going to look at that with the chord melody piece, isolé. Isolé. I never know if it's isolé or isolé. I'll have to find out. And then I think after that we'll do another of these classic ones as well, because people seem to have really enjoyed these classic songs. I'm off on holiday next week, so there's no Can a Cappella next week. We'll be back the week after for a bird special. And so likewise, if it's very quiet in the ukulele Matt Stead land on ukulele Facebook and all that, don't panic. I'm just off with the kids and Sharon on a little holiday. When I come back, which will be the first week in November, I'm going to put the first Beatles lesson on the new course. We're going to have a whole 20 to 30 part course of Beatles songs. Some of them will be played with chords like this. Some of them will be really beautiful chord melodies. So we're going to have all sorts of things going on. And I'm going to do some really simple songs as well. Things like I Saw Her Standing Her There, which is going to be all these cool kind of seventh chords and stuff. So a whole Beatles course starting on my website, first week of November, mattsteadukulele.com. All of my gold members will get that automatically. You can join in the course. Silver members will eventually be able to buy it outright once it's completed, but that's not going to be for about another half a year to a year. So if you haven't signed up, it's worth checking it out, mattsteadukulele.com. There's 9 courses on there at the moment. There'll be 10 including the Beatles ones, covering beginners, intermediate, next steps. There's a fingerstyle one, uke theory one. There's even one called Uke TLC about how to take care of your ukuleles, stringing them and things like that. There's also a baritone course, all sorts on there. Check it out. And whilst I'm having, not a break, but whilst I'm not producing new content, I've been going in and polishing up some of those old lessons, so hopefully you'll notice a bit of a change in the quality in those as well, which would be great. So, thanks guys, really appreciate it. Looking forward to it. Spending a peaceful time by the seaside for a week, just chilling. Thank you. Well, take care. I will see you when I'm back from my travels in just over a week's time for Can a Cappella, and then 2 weeks for our next live lesson, and we'll have loads going on after that. So keep in touch, and I will see you all very soon. Take care, everyone. Much love.